So if you turn on the flashlight, it also turns on the USB, but it doesn't turn on the DC. Well, that's kind of interesting. And it takes less wattage. I'm still learning stuff about this. What's up YouTube, Jason here with Byte My Bits, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to my camera with white spots in my eyes because I stare directly at the light. That doesn't matter. I want to talk about something I don't need, but I still bought because that's sometimes what I do. The Jackery 1000, a pure sine wave 1000 watt car battery with a handle. That's not an accurate description, but it's fairly close. And yes, I actually paid for this. I did not reach out to Jackery and ask for a free model. I actually bought this back in June in preparation for a camping trip that I do once a year. A camping trip where I wanted to have things, simple pleasures like a coffee maker and a fan. And I needed something powerful enough in order to run both of those. Not necessarily at the same time, but I wanted a fan that could run somewhere around 50 watts throughout the night, and I wanted to be able to brew some coffee in the morning. And that's where I found not this. Actually, I tried to cheap out. This was $1,000. I wanted it, didn't want to spend $1,000 on something that I'll probably use 2, maybe 3 times a year. Instead, I ended up buying a cheap, like direct from China over a boat, took like a month and 10 days to receive, and it did not last more than 5 minutes. Like, I tried to plug something into it and it just completely fried, did not work anymore. That was $600. I sent that thing right back. It was thankfully through Amazon, and I just bought what I originally wanted, wasting a bunch of my time, but actually getting me a device that is freaking amazing. So this is a portable solar powered station that allows you to take power on the go. It's powered by lithium ion batteries and can handle 1,000 watts, but supposedly up to 2,000 watts peak. And I have never actually had any kind of device like this. I've never messed with solar panels in any real capacity. So this is all brand new to me. So I don't have specialized equipment to test this device as far as efficiency goes or, anything like that. But what I can tell you are some observations that I found and some research that I found. So to start things off, the Jackery 1000 does have a pure sine wave electricity AC output. So that means you can run things like computers or sensitive electronic equipment off of it without any kind of issues. Again, it does support up to 1,000 watts. I have pushed it past 1,000 watts for a little bit of time before it kicks in and basically protects itself from overheating. It can take in a maximum charge of 30 volts or about 160 watts with the standard plug-in that comes here on the side. It actually has an Anderson connector that can take in a little bit more power. Basically, if you plug this thing into the wall, it's the weirdest thing in the world, but if you plug this thing into the wall with this port, which it prioritizes over the Anderson port. You cannot use both of them, but if you plug it into the wall with that port, it charges about 160, sometimes 164 watts. However, I did watch some YouTube reviews before I bought this, and you can hook up multiple panels, or at least 2 panels, solar panels, to this device, and you can charge up to about 170 to 175 watts. And that kind of sucks, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So the Jackery Explorer 1000 weighs 22 pounds, has a regulated 12 volt DC outlet that actually runs at 13.3 volts and can handle up to 10 amps, which is another important thing because I bought this, pretty much just a car jump starter. Not that I ever used it, I actually ended up using it for something completely different, but still, it can handle jump starting a car without popping any internal breakers or anything like that. So, there's that. On the front, it has 2 USB Type A's for charging or powering some lights and 2 USB Type C's. One of these Type A's is a quick charge 3.0. And then of course it has 3 AC outputs, which I think is pretty cool. It gives you a lot of options to plug things in without needing to use something like a power strip to expand what you want to plug in, just in case you want to plug in a bunch of chargers. Now the front does have a display that tells you how many watts it's taking in if you're charging it, either with a solar panel or with the DC adapter you can plug into your wall. And it does come with the DC plug-in for your vehicle as well. I did not get that out, however. And it it'll tell you the percentage that it has available in the battery. Now, I charged this thing more than a few times from 0%, and it took anywhere from about 7 to 7.5 hours to reach 100%. Which means that what Jackery says on their website is fairly accurate. I'm sure if I were to plug in a couple solar panels to this, that I could actually give it that higher voltage or that higher wattage and charge it just a little bit faster, I could probably hit some better times. But since I'm new to the game, I've never actually messed with solar panels before. I got this. Now, this is basically a Rockpals foldable 100-watt solar panel kit. It uses a couple different connectors, and I don't know all the names to it, but it has every single adapter that comes with it. I will link to this in the description down below. However, I cannot fully recommend this over any other solar panel because I have never tested it. All I know is that it can charge all the things. Oh yeah, here's the... Nope, that's it. Okay, so this plugs into this plugs into that, and then, you know, good to go. Now this, I like this solar panel because it's portable. You can easily fold it up, open it up, lay it on the ground, mount it somewhere, whatever you want to do. That's the reason why I bought it. Also, it was considerably cheaper than the Jackery solar panels. Not that that was a factor, because when I first originally ordered the first one, I wasn't a Jackery, so I was not worried at all about the Jackery solar panels. I did not buy new solar panels when I ended up buying, you know, this battery. So I don't really have anything to compare these to. But for my needs, this was able to get me a charge of about 60 to 66 watts, which it's a 100-watt panel. That's just what I got. I'm in Kansas. That's the best I could have got. Or at least that's the best I did get. But what about capacity? And this is the reason why I got the Billy Badass of the Jackery lineup. I wanted as much possible capacity that I could get, and this is what it got. It literally was able to run a 100-watt fan overnight. This is about 7 hours, so I mean, can it really be overnight? I didn't sleep that much. The 100-watt fan was actually running at half speed, so it was more along the lines of 70 watts, if I remember right, 73 watts being drawn from it. But the thing I really liked about it the most is that here you have the option to turn the DC on and off and the AC on and off, which most of these units or all of these units automatically have, just because when you have them on, they drain power even if you're not using something. So I was able to plug this in, and I got this set of camping lights that are USB powered. I could power this off a little portable power bank if I wanted to for like 10 hours. But with something like this, I could power it for probably weeks. I mean, it takes 6 watts. And as I just discovered in the intro of this video, if I turn on the little flashlight that comes on the side of the device, it only takes 3 watts. I don't know why. That's weird. I don't know. I think it's not as bright, but with this one on, it powers the USB devices, it still powers the lights, and it uses 2 to 3 watts less than actually having the DC on. The point is, I can run these USB lights, or even a couple of these USB lights, for like a week without needing any kind of charging. So if you have something like a serving area and a big campground and you want to string some lights over your head or around the perimeter or whatever, something like this is just like an easy way to do something and light the area for very minimal effort and do it for a long time. See, 6 watts. It's weird. So I ran my fan all night after running these lights for multiple hours before I went to bed, and that's all well and good, but what else can this thing handle? Well, Jackery actually claims that this can handle something like a 60-watt device, like a car refrigerator, for example, for up to 66 hours. I don't have one of those refrigerators, so no way for me to test that out. You can charge a standard phone, something like an iPhone 8 or a 10, up to 100 times, supposedly. Again, this is what they claim. I have not charged my phone 100 times off of it. I'm just giving you their numbers. And you can charge something like a 12 or 13-inch laptop up to 11 to 12 different times. So those are those perfect scenario numbers that come from the factory themselves. As far as my testing goes, I did kind of some weird tests. The first thing I wanted to do was overload it. I know that sounds dumb, but I wanted to try to see if it would break, because the Chinese thing that I bought, there's like a metal square, it fried like the first time I tried to put any real load on it. So I plugged this thing into a coffee maker, and I was able to brew a full pot of coffee without any issues that ranged anywhere from 900 to 1100 watts. So then I ended up plugging in a space heater. Now the space heater was interesting because it can pull up to 1500 watts supposedly, but it really only pulled between 1200 to 1300 watts. And surprisingly, the Jackery could handle that for about a couple minutes before it shut itself down to probably protect itself from heat. But I was able to run that small space heater on the low setting at only 600 to 700 watts, meaning that if I wanted to run that, let's say at a campsite or in a tent or something like that, which I never will, but if I wanted to, I could do that for roughly about an hour, maybe 50 minutes. I even ran a vacuum, which was about 900 watts. I vacuumed most of the basement. It's the most I've ever used that vacuum before. I'm just dragging this thing around and vacuuming, and it never once skipped a beat. So there's absolutely no reason to ever need a battery like this to run a vacuum, but I was just trying to plug things in to see how it handled the power. I know, bear with me here. But this brings me to the second reason that I decided to get this battery. And that's because I suffered a power outage that drained my UPS batteries. I was there, I was watching them drain the entire time. And the whole time I was thinking to myself, gosh, if I could just have like 15 to 30 more minutes on this battery backup, I would not have to power down my entire server rack. Because Westar Energy was sending me text messages saying your power will be on in less than 20 minutes. And surprisingly enough, that was accurate. But unfortunately, I fell about 15 minutes shy before my UPS power supply backups in my server racks went out, which makes me want to buy a new one instead of bought this. But I can run one of my UPS backups, the one running my main server, for almost an hour extra with this battery. That's tested, plugged it in, ran an extra hour before that UPS drained this battery and started reverting back to the UPS's power. So that's kind of cool. Bear in mind, the UPS was down about 70 to 80%, so it was also charging itself while powering all the devices, so it was drawing a little bit more, but still, that's the best use case scenario where the power goes down, it's been down for over an hour, you think the power is about to come on, and you just want to keep your stuff running for just a little bit longer. Dumbest reason in the book, but I love that. Let's add another dumb reason to me owning this battery. I can run my 80-inch TV, which I know, give me crap, it's only 1080p, but still it's 80 inches with my surround sound and my Xbox for almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 55 minutes, give or take. Again, that doesn't really make sense because, you know, if it's 3 hours, I'm not gonna have my server up for 3 hours. It can only last about an hour and I can't use the battery in all of them. So none of this, again, makes sense. But this is just kind of give you an idea of some of the use case scenarios. However, on my camping trip, something that I did do was run a projector off of this battery because there was an event. I streamed it with this. It was awesome. The projector, a little bit sensitive to unclean energy, so I was a little worried about it, and I like the pure sine wave energy that this thing puts out, so I ran it through that. Which brings me to basically the only and biggest flaw that I found with this battery, and that is its ability to charge. It cannot charge quickly. It sucks. And I hate that. But it's not that bad. But I still hate it. When I'm looking online for things like the Yeti, and there's like another one out there, I mean, other ones can charge literally twice, if not 3 times as fast as this one can. You plug this thing into the wall, and it can only charge 160 to 164 watts, but you can plug something into it and draw a consistent 1,000 watts. So not that this should be used like a UPS backup, but that's basically what I kind of sort of ran it as because I was using it as an intermediate between the generator on the campsite and the sensitive projector that I was using to display the event while we were camping. Pretty much this thing could not keep up. The projector and the whole hookup and everything that I had set up to the projector was a little bit over 400 to 450 watts, somewhere around there. And this thing only charges at 160. So it's one of those things. It's like, okay, I don't know why you can't charge faster, but whatever. And that's really the only problem that I found with this battery. Everything else works great. It does have, like I said, this little flashlight on the side that does have the option if you hold in, turn it off. If you hold in, yeah, it starts blinking SOS, which, okay, that's kind of cool too, because if you have it hooked up to lights, it also blinks the lights. Wow, I learned another thing. Not only does it power it, but you can have blinking SOS on your USB lights. Huh. I wonder. Yeah, AC makes them static. Turn it off, all SOS. Okay, neat feature. It's like shining right on my nipple. Why do I say weird things like that? So if I had two wishes, one, fix the big issue with not being able to charge very fast. I think that's weird. Everyone else can do it. Jackery, you need to step your game up and let this thing charge faster. Two, I wish that the display, which I do like, it kind of shows up and it's awesome. I wish that I could hold this first of all so it would stay on all the time. It doesn't drain that much, but it'd be nice to be able to just keep that on all the time. But I wish the display would give you an estimated runtime based off of the load and the battery capacity. That would be kind of cool. That way I can plug something in and it says, hey, you have estimated this much time before you die. I think that would be cool. Which actually brings me to a third thing, something I didn't even think about until now. The battery percentage, although is very useful and somewhat accurate, I noticed something while I was using it, and I've drained it a few times so far, is that the 30% down to the 10% mark is extremely fast. Like it can drain from 100 to 30% relatively slowly, and then it falls from 30 to 10% really quick, and then it kind of levels off, but that last 1% seems to hang on for a long time. Like, it doesn't actually know how much is left. It's like the gas tank gauge on your car. You know, you hit E, but then it just kind of keeps going. And really, you had an extra gallon in reserve, but it said you were on E. In a vehicle, that might make sense, but I wish this thing was just a little bit more consistent and more accurate as it goes throughout the entire percentage range. I'm sure there's a reason for that. I don't know why, but it'd be cool if it didn't do that. Not a big deal. Again, just a little small detail. So in the future, I plan on keeping this around 100% charged just in case I need some emergency power to power something in my house in the event of a power outage. I've had two pretty long power outages so far this year, so this is not an uncommon occurrence in my area. But also once, possibly twice a year, I will be going out into the wilderness, to the lake. I'm going to the lake this weekend, maybe camping, some other stuff where I can hook this up, I can roll out my solar panels on the ground, allow it to charge all day throughout the entire spectrum, obviously getting more and the best charging when the sun's right above it, but getting that charge throughout the day, helping keeping this thing a little topped off, and depending on my usage, could be able to use something like the fan in my tent throughout the entire night without it dying. I know I'm kind of grasping at straws to justify the reasons for me to buy this thing. That is ridiculous, but now that I have it and I've used it a few times and I know that I can back up my UPS and my server rack for almost an hour depending on the load, I'm kind of excited to have it. So there's that. So guys, if you want to find out more about the Jackery Explorer 1000, check out the links in the description. That'll give you an up-to-date pricing and very much more, a lot more detailed technical specifications, very much more. Yes, that's me. As always, any questions or comments, post them in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and have yourself a great day. Do 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 do. Isn't that wrong? I mean, I get it kind of gets the same point, but shouldn't it be like do 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 and then pause? Do 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 and then pause? This is like do 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 do. It's like SO. Like shout out? What does that mean? I don't get that. I don't know. I'm not a Morse code expert.